Hi, this is Antoine from Global Kite Trips. We're currently in Mboaka at Vento Vinci. And today we're gonna see how to tune our bar properly so your kite fly as good as it can be. Okay, so the first thing you wanna do is to lay your bar on the ground and start walking your lines like you would do normally. So once my steering lines are separated, I usually separate the center lines because I have 5 lines, so it's just faster and easier to walk them twice instead of trying to do all the lines at the same time. So here I'm gonna put the lines on the ground. For the next part, I'm gonna need an assistant that's gonna hold the bar. I'm gonna need my assistant to hold the bar at the extreme side of the bar and to make sure he keeps the bar completely straight the whole time. Note that the depower should be fully out, so you should be full power to perform your lines adjustment properly. Good. Okay, so once we're here, we want to pull the bar all the way in, and we're gonna ask our assistant to hold the bar farthest possible. Okay, you can hold the way you want. Make sure your elbow goes completely in your chest like this. And you want to be perfectly aligned with the person that's gonna hold the lines. All right, take my side. Exactly, and then not like this or not like this. You want to be really straight aligned with where the lines are gonna be. Okay, hold this like that. Thank you very much. Now we're gonna go back to the end of the lines and we're gonna check what distance we have with each line. It's gonna be pretty hard to see on video, but I made sure that my lines are completely separated. So now you wanna make sure there's no twist in the lines and that the lines are completely straight. This is where you're gonna grab the extreme end of the lines like this, and you're gonna get them in tension. Make sure when you do this exercise, there's no wind pushing on your lines, which would make a curve in your lines and it wouldn't be as accurate as it is now. So you want to put a little bit of tension and ensure that both knots end at the same place. If that's the case for your steering lines, then we're gonna check on the center lines what it looks like. So again, I'm gonna pull on my center lines. So as you can see here, there's a slight difference between the two lines. In this case, the easiest method to make them perfectly straight will be to stretch the shortest one. If the stretch would be a little bit longer, then we could perform a double loop on this knot here. So step 1 is to slack this line. You can use a non-sharp tool to open this, or you can just push with your fingers in order to open it. And now what we want to do is to bring this line inside a second time, because obviously it's already in once. Now we want to double up here to make the line slightly shorter. This way, we're not stretching any lines, we're shortening one of the two lines. Once you see that curve here, make sure to remove it completely and make sure to remove all the loose that you could see, so there's no extra loose that will get slack eventually or that could false your data. Now, I want to double check my lines one more time. And with that adjustment we did here, you can tell that the gray line is quite shorter than the red line right now. As a result, this have not fixed my problem. So now we're going to open up this knot that we removed, we're gonna put this back where it have to be. Again, taking our two lines together and just rechecking that we still have the red line a little bit too short compared to the gray line. In this case, I'm gonna perform a different method, which is stretching that red line because it's a little bit too short. If you don't think you have the strength to pull on that line with two hands without the line slipping, it's recommended to make a loop here, to put a screwdriver, and this way you can have a strong handle. Once you find your tool, it could be a screwdriver, it could be a stick, or anything strong enough so you can do a leverage. You want to make a loop with your line and make sure that you're ready to pull. Make sure your assistant and yourself are in a position that you're strong and that you can really pull on the line. Once you're ready, your assistant and you will put around 50 pounds maximum of tension in the line for a few seconds. Make sure to not pull too much. Now you want to check again after pulling a little bit to make sure your lines are straight. And now, as you can see, if I refer to those two 25 centimeter symbol, the more pressure I put, the more they're perfectly even. So this has been successful. Now the last part will be to put those two center lines together and to take the two steering lines together and check if you have the same length. As you can see here, my center lines are much longer than my steering lines. So I will need to remove about 1 inch of my center lines to have all my lines equal. In this case, a knot can be performed to both lines to have slightly shorter center lines. Make sure to pull on the pigtails and to make the knots on the pigtail and not on the lines. Making a knot on the thin lines would actually not cause any adjustment and could be destructive for your kite lines because they're not made to have knots in it. Now, let's take those two lines together again. Make sure you put enough tension in those knots so that they're not going to stretch after. You're going to take your two steering lines and now you're going to check if you have all the lines equal. If the answer is yes, then good job. Note that on some kite bars, you can find adjustments for your steering lines under your floaties and adjustment for your center lines, normally above the depower. Now, as you might have noticed, I didn't do my 5th line in that exercise. For kites that have 5 lines, it is important that you tune this line independently, as you don't have any other lines to refer to, and that doesn't need to be equal to the other lines. Your 5th line on a 5-line kite can be adjusted based on your preferences, if you want the 5th line a little bit more tight or a little bit more slack. So the number one reason why we want to check our bar is because the lines are sometimes stretching. Now, when you tune your bar, you want to make sure that your steering lines are even to each other, and you want to make sure that your center lines are even to each other. The reason being is that if your center lines are not perfectly even, the kite will turn faster and pull less on one side, and turn slower and pull more on the other side. If your steering lines are not even, then you'll notice it on the bar, although it won't affect the speed that your kite is steering unless your steering lines are really, really stretched. Once your steering lines and your center lines are equal, you want to make sure that the steering lines and the center lines are also equal if you want your bar to be in the normal settings. I hate you guys. Nice shirt, bro. Yeah, you just brought. Say hi. What a nice shirt you got there.
Yeah, man. 2020 shirt. t-shirt for all our employees.
So the reason why we want to check our lines is because sometimes the lines are stretching. If your center lines are not even, you'll notice that your kite is steering faster on one side and pulling harder and steering slower on the other side. For most of the user, you'll probably prefer your bar to be tuned in a normal sheeted position, which is all the lines even. Thank you for watching.